Awesome. So, Chris, you want to tell us a little bit about, I was kind of part of these discussions, but I let you and Ben kind of talk about the strategy that you have for the collection and, some of the decisions that were made so far in terms of platforms.
Sure. Let me tell you about the collection itself, and then I'm going to let Ben uh, talk about the strategy. But yeah, what the collection is as I mentioned, this is artwork that goes back to, or the illustrations go back to, as far back as 1910. When H.G. Wells wrote War of the Worlds, they just had little drawings in the book, and that was it because they didn't have Photoshop back then, as if I remember correctly. But what Forey did is he actually commissioned these top artists, Brzezinski and other ones, to kind of bring these to life and turn it into museum quality art. And I'm talking like, painting on canvas or, the big boards and things like that. So he really kind of brought it to life. And of course, he explained the history of it. The entire collection is 93 pieces, so it's pretty substantial. Within it, though, or like I say, the works on War of the Worlds, The Time Machine. Uh, Major part of the collection, too, is magazines. Back in the 20s, 30s, and 40s, sci fi magazines were really a rage. You had Amazing Stories, you had Wonder Stories, you had all of these magazines that were going out. And they had this incredible artwork that was done, for the covers and as illustrations for that. Well, we have a lot of those, obviously not all of them, but so we've got collections of magazine covers, we've got collections of how the artwork has evolved, through the world. But the most interesting thing is when you look at what's going on today, whether it's Marvel, whether it's Star Wars, all of that, it all goes back to this stuff. In fact, Stan Lee was a part of our group for a while, way before he was, did Marvel. This was Stanley Media, but he was a part of our group, and he even pointed to a picture and said, "Yeah, that's kind of what inspired me to do Iron Man," which at that illustration, which was from a short story, was just a robot. So the reason we like the collection so much is that it does have historical importance. It's not just a drawing that sits there and you go, well, yeah, that's kind of nice, but it looks okay. It's like, no, 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 no. This was the cover of this magazine in April 1920 that housed the story by this author that inspired this. And that's all on our site and everything. But that's why we kind of think the collection is just perfect for something like this because we all know sci-fi is so big in entertainment; it permeates so much of our society. And like I even said to somebody, yeah, if you think about it, Bitcoin is science fiction. It was 10, when before it started, and here we are today. But that was actually written about, that we would have a coin like that. So that's basically about the collection. Of course, you can go to the site too and read more about it.
And maybe
Dan?
Ben can now tell us a little bit more about how are you guys creating the NFT collection out of this art collection and what is some of the strategy at the moment.
Sure, absolutely. So we got a lot of first of all, there are 93 pieces in the collection in total. Um, and we are getting them all vectorized in sequence. What we're looking at doing is some of these pieces. I'll use War of the Worlds as an example. There are three different versions of the piece that were written. One was in 1929, and then the 30s, and then the 40s. There were different covers and interpretations of War of the Worlds. So we're looking at selling sets. We're looking at selling one of ones. Four of our pieces were permanent uh, fixtures, or I guess props for the show. Big Bang Theory. One of the ones is actually right in front of the main door, the entrance that anyone goes in and out of in the apartment, and the other three are above Sheldon's bed in his bedroom for those that are Big Bang Theory fans. So those are very unique, and we are looking at pushing these NFTs out. We're really starting to market them first. We are minted on known origins. We have one up there, I believe, and I think we're also minted on Rarible. But as Chris had pointed out, we're exploring wax and some other interesting ways to get creative with it. So we've discussed the idea of loot boxes. So you would get, a couple of random pieces. We're going to have some one of ones. We're probably going to do some original designs or banners and stuff like that to make the NFTs really stand out and unique across all these different platforms. More than anything, what we want to get across is, we're kind of living in the world that everybody here had, or in these sci-fi stories, kind of we're writing about. One of the posters, it's a poster rather, or excuse me, it's a magazine cover, shows the world's first moving sidewalk and the world's first digital billboard, as well as the world's first subway, and that was back in the early 19 in the teens. So it's really fascinating, and I'm going to go back to Carlos because I'd love to hear his opinion. As he stated, he's kind of a blue chip art collector. So I myself am an avid NFT collector as well. I've got a portfolio a little over 4,000. So not all of them blue chip, but yeah, it's a lot of fun buying, selling, following projects and things of that nature. But what I really loved most about this project and partnering up with Sci-Fi Anthology is that all of these pieces have real history and gravitas in the sci-fi world, and that's kind of what crypto is, and what we're creating is we're making science fiction real.
Sounds amazing. From the top of my head, I could already hear a lot of things that could be really cool ideas. So for me, I'm just a brainstormer, so I'm already thinking about all the ways that you could ultimately in the future change these type of ultimately create these NFTs and then, have them change over time. I'm really into AI, so I just believe that, NFTs shouldn't just stay the same. I think that they should grow over time. So I think that that's a really cool opportunity to kind of create a timeline, throughout those videos that you're saying that you have these original videos and showing, the past to the future and kind of interconnecting them. But that's just one brainstorm idea that's random. But that being said, I do think that, licensing in the space, just to get it a little bit more focused here on what enterprises would be looking for, specifically, I think that it definitely is great to be licensed in the space. I think that there's going to be a big differentiation in between the type of collectors that you're going to get from people that are ultimately connecting DeFi NFTs to people that are collecting more licensed, collectibles, I like to say. And, there's a lot of new modern art museums that are popping up, museums of NFTs. There's a lot of really high end digital galleries that are already being created. Like last night, I was looking at somebody's gallery that was worth over $1 million, and it was just a virtual gallery that I was walking through my phone. It was amazing, just to see the different pieces displayed on the wall, this virtual walls. So there's definitely great opportunities there. I love the dynamics of having the video opportunity for you guys versus doing the static images. I do think that that's the future, but that's just a personal preference.
Awesome. Well, really appreciate the quick feedback, and I agree with you. There's no reason NFTs should stay stagnant, especially from a collector's standpoint. There's always going to be something that can be done with a piece, from maybe not from a utility perspective, but from an aesthetics perspective, where the color schemes changed around, or again, banners or special logos and things like that get added on. And what we really want to do is create a lovely portfolio of other classics, and with and have strategic partnerships with companies who do have the IP like we do, in order to get other great sci-fi, not just sci-fi, but that's where we're starting, projects and collections under our wing.
So, have you taken a look at Vivi by chance? You might want to take a look at them. They do licensed collectibles. They're partnered with Marvel as well as DC Comics. They've
What's
recently
that?
put out a lot of. It's called Vivi, VEVE.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, I pronounce it Vive. Sure, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, I probably pronounced it incorrectly. But that being said, definitely want to bring that one to your attention just because they're probably the best right now, in my personal opinion, that are upcoming doing licensing. They've got some of the best brands as well as the most notable characters in the world. Their drops are selling out in a matter of a half millisecond. So there's definitely great opportunity to kind of follow what they're looking at. So I just want to throw out another one that you just kind of might want to look at as a competitor and ultimately think, hey, along the same lines as them. I love that they're taking credit card payments versus, crypto at this point. As crazy as it sounds, I think that that's what's helping them flourish. And I know that this would be a huge argument with people that are avid crypto collectors or, crypto investors, better said, or digital asset investors. I know personally I'm a digital asset investor, but I do see kind of this interesting shift in trend and dynamics.
Yeah, I so that I'm on the other side of the argument. I don't use Vive or VV because of the crypto aspect and that they don't have it incorporated and it's not, truly an NFT on the blockchain yet.
Completely
Hey,
understood and respected.
Yeah, yeah, it's just
hey,
within the
Carlos.
one of these days,
Yeah.
they'll
Yeah.
get it.
Hey, Carlos. When you're talking about VE, are they a merchandise company or
It's
they're
an
just
app.
selling
They're
crypto and crypto?
They're an app that's currently available on the Apple App Store as well as Google Store. Um, they're created by a very well-known, collector named David Yu, who has a lot of collections, or connections, better said, within the licensing industry. So he's
Hmm.
the first to be able to get the Marvel NFTs as well as the Batman NFTs. So they were able to drop the Spider-Mans. Their AR comics are fantastic. They have comics. Their NFTs are actually AR, so they're much ahead of the game as far as the aspect of not doing static images. So once again, I would definitely just take a quick look at them, and more
Yeah.
than happy to
No.
discuss
Thanks.
that later. I just don't want to
I,
plug them shamelessly.
Yeah, can I this is Terry. Can I jump in real quick? I had somebody come into a room I host a couple weeks, maybe a month. Well, okay, it's probably longer because I've been hung up in an NFT room for the last. And when I say hung up, I mean lovingly, like chose to. But anyway, somebody came into the room and we're talking about VV. And what's interesting about VV is that it is on the blockchain. So there's VV, which is part of Ecomi. Ecomi is the token, ECOMI, and it's on the Go blockchain. And at first, I thought this person was like, I thought they were making all this up, and then I looked it up, and if you look at the Ecomi white paper, ECOMI, it's all there, and it explains that what you see on Vivi is a front end that enables people who aren't familiar with crypto to be able to buy these digital these collectibles, and then the front side is fiat, but the back side is crypto. So I don't yet know. I did buy some. I've not been successful buying anything. I bought the gems. You buy gems, and then you use those to buy the comics and the collectibles. So I don't know how it works. I don't know how you sell it. I don't know what it turns into, but it is actually on the blockchain as I understand it, according to the white
So
paper.
just speaking as a former equity owner in Economy, or Ecomi, it was
Hey,
actually a
Ben, we
very
can
big
barely
effort.
hear you. If you can just maybe turn it up a little bit.
Yep,
Hey,
can you hear me now?
yeah, it's a little better.
Can you Okay, great. I don't know. Yeah, okay. So yes, as a former equity investor in Ecomi, there was a very interesting and a couple rounds, several rounds of investors calls about Vive or VV before it was coming out, and how the token was to be utilized. Because obviously, if you're going to have a token in the United States, it needs to be a utility token. It needs to have a use case with it. So the back end was entirely built and designed to be utilized on blockchain. However, what are being minted are not being put on the blockchain yet. They're still within Vivi's
Uh,
centralized app, so you can't actually sell anything yet. All you can do is buy the pieces. The back end, if you're in the United States, you won't actually even see it. But if you're in Europe, you can go look at screenshots of people showing off or YouTube videos. There's actually a setting where you can turn on your Ecomi wallet, and at that point you can send tokens directly to Vive, and then you can use your Ecomi tokens instead of having to buy gems through the Play Store. But because they're running it through the Play Store and the Google App Store, because they wanted to grab mass adoption, they're not allowed to utilize cryptocurrency in the United States. So they have a very tough decision to make, because if anybody wants to sell out of these, they're going to sell out into Ecomi tokens, and they're going to need to be able to do that in a regulated manner and have the technical understanding of it's not as simple as just pressing the sell button. It's getting the token and knowing how to use that token and sell it or trade it or hold it, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, actually, I want
Yeah,
to
actually, I want
speak a little bit further to that though, just because you both are actually correct. But as of recently, just because I do sell stuff on there, it's very easy to do. And basically, what happens is you end up getting gems, and then you can ultimately transfer them back if you'd like to cash.
Oh, interesting. So I stopped following it because there was a point where you couldn't do anything other than buy gems. I'm glad they allow you to convert gems back to cash at least.
Yeah, definitely. And I would definitely check out the press releases from Marvel and stuff like that. I would less look at Ecomi, to be 100% honest. I would be looking at more at the enterprise companies that are getting involved with them. But that's just my personal opinion once again. I know everybody's, entitled to what they like and what they don't like, and DeFi projects versus licensed projects. And there's all these great subjects that are currently coming up in the NFT space. And there's a lot of people even arguing about static images and saying, these bored apes should stay like this, and, all kinds of interesting things with derivatives. So it's a really exciting time, and I love hearing from all of you guys. I'm learning a lot.
Yeah, and there's the thing that there's the white paper, but then does anyone ever follow up and see that they followed through on everything in the white paper, I suppose, right?
Right. Exactly right. There's the white paper, the roadmap, and then the actual execution of everything and the timeline. So, and it's not just Vive. I'm not picking on any project in particular. I'm picking on almost every project in crypto that requires development. There's going to be bumps along the road, but all in all, it is a good platform. It's a cool platform to utilize. I think I bought a Ghostbuster off of there. I need to go check the app. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
So interestingly enough, I'd like to maybe have Terry talk a little bit about the crypto pills project that she has been involved in and how that came about. Maybe somewhat relevant to what you guys are trying to do with the sci-fi anthology. So Terry, you want to address that?
Sure. And my friend Pips is on stage. He's been probably more involved with the actual project than I
Hi,
have.
Pips.
He's been there. He's
Hey,
been
how's
there
everybody doing?
every day, every day, 24/7. So maybe he can introduce himself too, if you don't mind, and then we could talk a little bit about it. Is that okay?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. We have a lot of things going on as far as with marketing. We have short reels coming up. We have celebrity influencers coming on. We recently opened a liquidity pool. Um, So yeah, just a few things to name a few. The liquidity pool is one of the things I'm really excited about because, as you all know, having a liquidity pool adds extra value to a project because it means that there's actual liquidity there for the community to access when needed. So super excited about that, and other than that, I'm just excited about the collection overall. So I'll pass it over to Terry.
All right. So Misha, the crypto pills. It goes back actually the project 30 years. Misha Klein is an artist who literally found a computer in a back room and phone call. He was an artist and he found this computer and decided he was going to try and see if he could make 3D digital art on this computer. And he did. He was successful, and then he created this Pillman. And then he took that and he decided to set it to music and became the first VJ. Setting music to art and taking it to parties. Started the whole acid house scene back in Europe in the 80s and then the early 90s. And his art literally preceded Toy Story and Pixar by 3 years. Then Eminem came to him and asked if he would do participate in his tour. You can see the Pillman in his Slim Shady videos. And then he partnered with Coca Cola and again Disney and Swatch, Heineken, all kinds of other projects over the years. And he decided 3 years ago to take his Pillman and create a 10,000 generative 101 project. So he created 500 hand drawn images in 35 different categories, I think, and kind of mixed them and matched them. And he came up with his collection. And it launched on August 27th and it sold out in 11 minutes. So during the launch, I started the Crypto Pills fan club, and Pips and I have been working over there just building community. And I really feel it's one of the strong. I've not seen another NFT project in Clubhouse form a community like we. There's a lot of communities, but not one strictly revolved around a project that's been together like we have. But it's truly art you could believe in. I mean, how do you go back any further than a founder of 3D digital art? So it's a project we're really excited about, and that's how we met Mariana.
And I love the community aspect of this. I think I would love to just address that a little bit more, because Terry, in my mind, is sort of that spark, and Pips, and Valley, and all these people who have been like involved with it. I just thought they created this most amazing community surrounding an art project. Collection project. Maybe just address a little bit about how the community kept happening, and how many people came into it, and how they were engaged in this community. I thought that was fascinating.
Well, it kind of all came together organically. I mean, over the a couple of days, several people in our community had, in different groups, found out about the project through some rooms that were hosted, I think, in the NFTS tips room, and they came, to our respective communities. And at night, we all go to a room called Crypto After Dark. So during the day, we each heard about it, and then we all came together at Crypto After Dark, and then we all decided we were going to go in. Like, okay, well, if you got on the wait list, can we all jump in? And so people just kept joining the room and joining the room, and we were getting excited the night before the launch. And I think the white paper, if you're whitelisted, I'm sorry, not white paper, if you're whitelisted at 11:11 that night, you could start minting. So one of our friends, Nick, was minting for a bunch of people. My friend Randy and Jack were minting for people. And we were just, the group just kept joining. And then before we knew it, Misha and Lavelli and Krista joined the room. And we were just like flabbergasted and fanboying Misha for a while. Then that morning they started a room at 9:30 to do the launch, and it was just so electrifying and exciting. I thought, well, why don't I just start? I'm just going to start a Crypto Pills fan club, and if it doesn't go anywhere, it doesn't go anywhere. It's just there was just so much excitement from the night before, and we have been there ever since. We have literally, many of us have been together. Not all the time. People pop in and out. You've got jobs and activities, but I can't even. I think there's over 1,000 people in the fan club just in the last 5 weeks. I haven't checked the numbers recently, but I mean it's a solid group of people, and we on our own we go. I mean, the marketing team does their own thing, and then we've got all these other things that we do, like we do Twitter aids, and we do um, YouTube videos, and Pips is doing this liquidity pool, and just all to promote the project, because we really feel like it's one of the strongest projects out there, and it can rival any project long term. It's kind of been a slow burn. A lot of people are familiar with Misha in Europe, but not necessarily in the US. And that's fine with us because it's allowed a lot more people to kind of get in at a more affordable level. But I believe strongly that it's going to take off. I mean, it's the artist is so solid, and if you look at his work, I mean, he's been with the Andy Warhol. I mean, he's been everywhere. He's done everything. There's nothing I don't think that he hasn't done. So he's been in Christie's, Sotheby's, almost every museum. He's just an amazing artist. And the work is 3,000 DPI. You can't get better. Like, you could print it the size of a wall and not lose clarity. It's amazing.
And so what was really interesting today at the trading conference, there were some traders who were worried about, you know, DeFi protocols losing value because there is a backdoor created, and if you go through that back door, people take all the value out of the protocol, and then, you know, obviously the trades are failing and the protocol failed. And I explained to them that the developers in the DeFi community and in the crypto community are basically valued based on what they developed in their last protocol and what happened to it. And yes, there are scams everywhere, but this is not something that is inherent in the way that this business is being run through communities, with artist communities behaving the same way, with, you know, developer communities behaving this way. And so the trader who was making the comment, he said, yeah, but there is, you know, default in the hundreds of millions of dollars. And then one of the top venture funds in crypto says, yeah, but these protocols have created billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. So you're looking at less than 1% failure rate, which kind of makes the point that these communities are very strong. And yes, you don't want to be scammed, but you also have this business that's community driven, and the strength of the community is almost as important as the actual products and protocols and companies. So I really love that. Maybe you guys can say a little bit more about it.
Just to add to that, or jump right on top of that, we found that when I was working with Shisha Finance as COO, it was one of our biggest our mission statement was, you know, transparency and honesty in all we do. So we actually did a internal audit of the smart contract, but obviously that could be a conflict of interest. So then we hired two separate smart contract companies on retainer. So anything that was is deployed on the network, not only has it been audited, but we make the audit reports publicly available, or made them publicly available. And I think that that's going to be something that people look for, you know, as opposed to a white paper that, you know, talks about the project, is the audit behind the technology that certifies everything's going to be okay and there's not any back doors, based on, you know, the stamp of approval by certain companies and things of that nature. And not to bring the conversation too far back, but Pips, I'm very, very interested. I guess if you could explain it on a higher level or very quick level, on how liquidity pool like how did you do a liquidity pool generation event, or however you want to call it, TGE for your liquidity pool, for NFTs? What did you pair it to? How did all that work?
Sure. Well, the platform that I used was NFTX.io. And I paired the NFTs with Ethereum. So the NFTs get paired with Ethereum. You then match the NFTs with the corresponding value in Ethereum, and you lock it up inside of the liquidity pool, and thus that provides the liquidity for the rest of the community.
Oh wow, well that's great. So the community can actually go in, and when they if they buy an NFT or put in, that's adding to the liquidity pool.
Absolutely. For me, it was more of a long term play, in another way to generate passive income, because when you stake inside of the liquidity pool and you become an LP, you then earn 5% interest fees off all transactions in and out of the pool.
Very fascinating, and that is all through nftx.io.
Yes, it is.
Thanks very much for sharing. I'll do some DYOR.
Please do.
I wanted to add on to the idea about community driven as well as dealing with conflicts of interest. I think conflicts of interest in the traditional business world are everywhere. And I think very often the people who are hired to run these companies are not necessarily in line with the desires of the stockholders. And I think one of the things that is so cool about the crypto pills and about so many of these other NFT projects that we've seen is that the interests align. And if if whether or not things happen depend on whether or not people want it to happen. It's kind of like, instead of build measure learn, it's more like learn then build. And I think that's really fascinating change to how business is being done.
Hi everybody. My name is Hashir, and I wanted to ask the panelist if uh, they could they could start a conversation on DAOs and how they work. And I've been trying to do some reading on DAOs, but I can find time to actually read along. So if you could give a little update or little bit of something on how DAOs function, because my understanding is of DAOs is something more close to, say, a Greek democracy. I may be wrong or something. Can you please, let's say, elaborate on it? Thank you.
Sure, I'll start. So yes, in theory, theory again to say that is what a DAO is that the community drives the project. It's truly decentralized. There's no owner, just stakeholders, and the stakeholders are in the form of token holders. So there's development on the protocol, on these blockchain protocols, and on these tokens. And for a DAO itself, a token is it's a specific type of token. You have utility tokens, you have your stable coins, security tokens, and for a DAO, the token is a governance token. So it actually is you actually utilize a token. Many one of the ways you do it is you burn the token for a vote, and the more tokens you burn, the more votes you're putting towards something within the protocol or whatever's being put up to vote. And it truly is a representative form of, as you said, the best form of democracy in action. Now there's some difficulties. Obviously there's a lot of discussions, arguments. It takes longer to implement, but the developers follow what the community ends up voting, and they use the tokens of whatever the project is, typically as governance tokens to vote with.
So the more governance token anybody holds, the more voting power he has.
Not not
Uh,
not always, not in all projects, but yes, some that can be the case. And sometimes people are just simply limited to one token per vote or 10 tokens per vote, something along those lines, so that no, some you can't have a whale come in and tilt the scales. It just entirely depends on the project and their parameters.
Awesome.
all right.
So go ahead.
Please go ahead.
I just wanted to kind of talk about the overall market and where we think this is going in terms of the size and shape of the market. Um, e- Yesterday, we were discussing on our panel, Terry and I, that the supply chain management is going to be basically reimagined with NFTs, but also many segments of the consumer markets. Are you guys seeing any more uptakes in any of these other spaces? And how long do you think this art market may be around?
I think the art market's going to be around the longest. It's the genesis, and it has the biggest kind of easy to understand use case. Two things I see more than anything is a supply chain, specifically agricultural supply chain. I see NFTs being used for that, as well as, and this is already happening, fractionalized ownership of real property, not just virtual property. and having an NFT represent a title or license for a piece of property or an asset of that sort. So I see a lot of real world use cases. And one project that I was the president of for a bit out in Asia called HyperDAO, they created a platform that allowed you to collateralize a physical item. So if you had a nice watch or something along those lines, you could collateralize that as an NFT, and you could take out a loan from a peer-to-peer exchange based on up to a certain percentage of the value of the real world item. And somebody buys that NFT and they can redeem the item, or obviously you just buy it back once you pay back the loan. So there's a lot of really fascinating things I see in the space as far as development outside the virtual world goes.
Would you mind repeating that name? And just would you like to elaborate a little bit about like fractionalization? What do you think about that?
And also, Benjamin, can you be a little bit louder? You're a little
Yep.
inaudible.
Yep. Trying to do that. My microphone's being really weird. So I will first. So Carlos, with fractionalization, just my thoughts in general on the whole fractionalized movement. Like like Masterworks, for example, fractionalized art or things of that nature.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
And as far as implementing that into NFT structures.
Sure. So there's the interesting thing about implementing it into an NFT structure is that it's not the technology or anything that's complicated. It's the regulations and legislations. If you have 1,000 people that own one apartment or something along those lines, who is that renter paying each month, and things of that nature. So it's almost like a whole new type of token metrics, building out an NFT architecture for actual properties and things of that nature. But what I do see it starting as at a bare minimum is deeds and titles for full on properties, and then from that point, we obviously can't fractionalize to a degree that we can in a metaverse, but maybe fractionalize, a condominium into 4 or 5 sections instead of 10 or so million that would be in a virtual world.
Yeah, I was really
Yeah, I
thinking
was
more
really
about
thinking.
the applications for digital blue chip art. But that being said, yeah, that's great as well for real estate, and I totally understand the implications, especially with all the determinations if it's going to be considered a security or how or how they're going to end up
The
finalizing how this turns out.
Sure, the fractionalization of actual blue chip art. Well, Masterworks is a perfect example. So I bought a few things through them, and it's very interesting. Every piece that they sell is its own Reg D SEC offering. So you can go in and read the prospectus and things of that nature, and go in and buy just a piece of a Monet or a Basquiat or anything of that nature, of that caliber. So fractionalizing it to that degree is very interesting, because it also creates a secondary market. So if I own 25 shares of a Monet and I bought it at $20 a share, well, that Monet is now appreciated in value. My shares are now worth $25. I'm up 20%, so to speak. So I, list on the secondary exchange and hope someone picks it up. And I think that with Masterworks just having closed a $110 million round, their first venture round, all being used for growth and acquisition, they're looking to buy $100 million worth of blue chip art in 2022, and in 2023 they're looking to hit $1 billion of art purchases. And I think that's really kind of disrupting the traditional art market because it's all through fractionalized art purchases.
And what I love about that is the ability to create a liquid asset out of almost any existing asset. We kind of predicted this would happen, over the years, and finally, because of NFTs, we tried doing this with utility tokens, and it just didn't make sense. and you couldn't have that level of quality of a contract supporting the actual project. But with NFTs, it just becomes seamless almost to execute on this. We were discussing NFTs here at the conference yesterday that are actually morphing from the value that they had at the issuance of NFT to the value of when the NFT is actually consumed or used. For example, when you talk about Bumblebee tuna, you know NFT on a supply chain, we don't really know if that tuna that gets to your table was actually farm kind of wild caught or farm fresh kind of delivered, and the NFT that was attached to the original tuna that was, let's say, wild caught may not be the NFT that gets to your table. And so Coin Network, which was one of our roundtable presenters yesterday, talked about these morphing NFTs where the value of the NFT is different at the beginning than it is at the end of the process. And they started with just showing like flowers that one can tend to, and the more you tend to them, the flowers open up, and the less you tend to them, they close down. But you can see how this is applicable to tuna and to other supply chain sort of issues and projects. We're going to be seeing, I think, not just fractionalization but also this NFT morphing to get it fully done. And in these last few minutes, I just want to share with you a takeaway for the trading show here in Chicago. When we started speaking with them in January, they said to me, "Well, maybe we'll have a blockchain panel or two, and let's get back to you." And I said, we can discuss DeFi, we can discuss NFTs, DAOs, anything you'd like to back in January. And I would say I got heard back from them, and everything else was just going to be traditional trading, high kind of algorithmic trading kind of and support. And so 4 or 5 months later, they called me and they said, "Oh yes, we're going to have a round table on NFTs. Let's do it with you guys." And once Terry and I got to this event, I would say at least 50% or more of exhibitors were in crypto, and every panel had a crypto discussion, and there was a DeFi roundtable and an NFTs roundtable. And as I was leaving, they said to me, "Well, the next event is in 9 months, but let's talk Monday on how we should, structure basically tracks of this discussion." So I would say, as far as fintech and trading is going, the crypto is being adopted at a highest rate I've ever seen institutionally, and it kind of showed me this week. Do you guys feel that enterprise is adopting NFTs at a very high rate? So that would be like my last question to the panel.
I would say that it's going slow, but it's definitely increasing rapidly. Definitely executives are inquiring about it, and just people in general are starting to talk about it more and more. A perfect example is I think that there's been some very notable figures or celebrities that have spoken, very highly about NFTs and it being the future, including Kevin O'Leary from the Shark Tank, as well as Mark Cuban. So definitely look out for those big celebrity influencers that, people aren't talking about much yet, but they will be in the future.
For me, I would
I
say just out for Visa buying a CryptoPunk. That says it all to me in one sentence.
Oh yeah, and the crypto toads, those are killing it right now.
Did you see the one that sold this morning for 420 ETH or something crazy?
Yeah, that's one of those museums that I'm talking about that's popping up, those digital art funds.
It's crazy. I mean, I see it growing so quickly, and I see a need for um, them to become educated. And I think, Mariana, one thing I noticed yesterday is people seem really hungry for information, and I hope they're able to get it where they need it, because I, it seems like, and we've all seen this before, right? When crypto is booming and now NFTs are booming, is they seem to kind of just be, it seems hit or miss, and people aren't quite sure of what to buy and how to buy it. And like, it was interesting what you said is, they'll just go ask their caddy on the golf course or their buddy on the golf course what to buy. And it's going to be interesting, I think.
I agree with that, Terry. And what was really interesting today in the on the DeFi roundtable was that, Wave. I invited Wave Financial, and they're probably one of the top five crypto funds, and in essence, crypto investment banks, if you like, in the space. And they had plethora of advice on, how to do. Well structured DeFi trading and what sources to use. And there were some other funds that are also top tier funds in the space. But they all said at the very end, oh, yes, and we started an NFT fund. So we just knew, coming out of this conference, that every trading firm on Wall Street is thinking about not just a crypto, but also an NFT fund. And so I think it would not be just in one area of NFTs. I'm not sure how they're going to diversify, because buying NFT art and dealing with companies that are creating supply chain out of NFTs and consumer marketing companies out of NFTs, this is not going to be the same asset class. But so they're not going to end up with one fund, but at least they're starting to think in this direction. So to me, that was, like with Terry, huge takeaway. Lots of capital present and trying to find its way into the space. And so we're working on educational platform with Infiom. Jeanette has put together some courses, and Nicola and myself. I think Adrian has one on NFTs, and we should have you guys also on this panel start thinking about what kind of education you want to provide to the space.
Yeah, I think what I wanted to say was what the government's response would be, because I recently heard the news that Biden is sort of gathering 30 countries to regulate crypto. What effects do you think that's going to have on? Because on one side, it's like the capital firms and Wall Street and other things are really going head on into the crypto world, and it's sort of brushing and sort of churning around with governments trying to regulate it. So what do you feel like outcome's gonna be? Where's gonna sort of the things gonna stop, or where is gonna be like the what would be the middle out thing there?
It, if you follow up with kind of, or this is just my personal opinion once again, but if you just kind of follow what happened with China and the recent 100th time that they've banned it. No, I'm just joking. That being said, the reality is that most of those very affluent Asian investors started to invest into digital assets, including NFTs, just because of the fact that instead of it being crypto related, so they're not owning currencies, they basically, and a lot of dark money, to be honest, went into NFTs.
Well, I think everybody here at this conference and everybody we work with welcomes the regulation, because it gives you a set of rules that you can abide by as you're launching companies, projects in the space. You're investing your money and your time into building this next generation of companies. You want to have clear rules. I welcome the rules development. Of course, they have to work with the industry, and they have to be cognizant of the fact that the smartest and the most successful companies will chase the best jurisdictions that offer them the set of rules that allows them to build their business. So I think that's actually a good development.
Yeah, and also just a heads up, what I was referencing was actually a Bloomberg article, so feel free to look that up. It was talking about mainland China investors, I believe was the title, something along those lines, move into NFTs because of the run away from crypto. But if you look along those lines, you can probably Google search it.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I want to thank everyone for the discussion today. Next Wednesday, we have our Infiom virtual Infiom Salon on Zoom, and Chris and Ben are going to be presenting their venture, so you can see them, the actual presentation of it. So please come and invite your friends. It's on Eventbrite, and if you just search on Google virtual Infiom INFIOM Salon, it comes right up. So we'll see you there, and then we'll see you in the clubhouse at 1:30. And we also have Jeanette manages a clubhouse discussion on Tuesday mornings at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time about ask me any questions about NFTs, DeFi, and DAO. So hope you can join us for both. Terry, thank you so much for hanging with me all day yesterday. I feel so privileged,
Yeah,
and
thank you. I'm the one who feels privileged. It was an honor to spend time with you.
it was fun to have you on the panel, and you contribute. I think you educated half of that exhibit hall. I really thought that was awesome. So thanks, everyone. See you next week.
Thank you.
Mariana,
Talk to
please.
you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Mariana. Bye bye.
Thanks, Elaine.
Bye.
Mariana.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.